Okay, so in this lecture we will discuss now molecular orbital theory, right? Or in short, it is called MOT, right? So before going into details of molecular orbital theory, let us see what is the basic difference between the valence bond theory or VBT, which we are most familiar with, and with this molecular orbital theory. Suppose in VBT what we had, suppose the atom A and atom B, right? Now this is the orbital of atom A and this is the orbital of atom B, and we said that when the two orbitals overlapped, right, there is a situation where if there is a good overlap, then there is a strong bond between them. Now suppose this one bond is formed by two electrons, right? So here are a pair of electrons. One electron is contributed from A, right? One of the electrons is contributed from A, another electron is contributed by the atom B. Now this electron that is contributed by A, right, as these orbitals we know are already we have discussed in our previous lectures that these orbitals are nothing but wave functions, and these boundary surfaces shows that this particular electron can be found 95% within this space, right? Within here you can find the electron that is provided by A within here, and you can find that electron that is provided by B in this sphere that is drawn on the right hand side. Now whenever there is an overlap, so there is a region where both the electrons can be present, and that gives our bonding situation, right? Now this electron that is provided by A, suppose we say it here, say electron E1 and this one as EA and this one as EB. Just the subscript just denotes that the electron belong to which atom, right? And by our atomic orbital theory, what we have that this electron EA cannot go outside, or I mean the probability of finding the electron outside this sphere around the B is just less than 5%, right? Similarly with B. So that means this electron cannot be found here, and this electron we have very least probability to find it here, right? This is the valence bond theory, where you have localized bonds, right? Localized bonds or orbitals. Localized bonds, right? Wherein in MO theory the basic difference is that whenever A and B combine, right, with their orbital, they have their individuality there, but whenever they combine together to form say AB, they lose their individuality, right? They lose it, and now they form a molecule, and they form new orbitals which we call molecular orbitals. These were atomic orbitals that we have discussed, that 1s, 2s, 2p, all these things, right? These are atomic orbitals which we discussed, the shapes of already discussed in the previous lecture. Now whenever they combine, they form molecules, and now the individual atomic orbitals are lost, they are gone, right? We cannot find them anywhere. Now what we have a new entity, that is a molecule AB, and the orbitals associated with it are called molecular orbitals, right? So there is no atomic orbitals now. Now the electrons, as in case of atomic orbitals, the orbitals are centered around the nucleus of the atom, particular atom. Now in molecular orbital, the orbitals are centered around the particular molecule, right? So this electron, now these two electrons, right, both EA and EB can reside anywhere in this electron. It can reside here, it can reside here, wherever you think, right? And obviously we know that by the shape we can say that wherever there is more probability, it can reside there. And we'll find that actually the bonding situation arises when the probability of finding those pair of electron is highest in between the electrons, between the two nucleus. Then we have a bonding situation. Now this is a molecular orbital and the electron can be found anywhere between them, right? So the individuality of atomic orbitals are lost. Now you have already laid I think these points, but it's better to recapitulate the salient features of MOT or molecular orbital theory, right? In your textbook you can find even more points, right? But the main points I think are this one. What it says that when atom combines to form molecules, their individual atomic orbitals lose their identity and forms new orbitals called molecular orbitals. This we already discussed in the previous slide, right? Second point is the shapes of molecular orbital depends on the shapes of combining atomic orbitals. This is important, right? Now as I see here, I have arbitrarily drawn this one, right? The two spheres are mixing up to form a bond between to give a electron density which is highest in between the two nucleus. So obviously the shape would be something like this, like a rugby ball, right? Whereas the shape will be different if you combine two p orbitals. If you combine two d orbitals, it will be different. If you combine one s and one p, it will be something else, right? So the shapes will be dependent on the combining orbitals, atomic orbitals, right? Okay, the third point is combination is allowed if the symmetries of atomic orbitals are compatible with one another, right? Now this is important because the symmetry in these combinations are very important, right? We'll see when we combine when you consider the shapes of atomic orbital and the formation of molecular orbitals in details in few minutes, right? The fourth is combination is efficient if the region of overlap between two atomic orbitals is significant. Then see again we have something like this, that if the region of overlap is significant, then only the combination is effective. In other words, it says that if the sizes are similar, right, or in then the efficient will be the overlap will be efficient, right? Suppose this say if you combine one s and one p, right, the combination will if you try to form a pi bond with one s and one p, the overlap is not efficient, right? Because the phase of one overlap is opposite of that one, so it cancels out each other. Now this fifth point, the combination is efficient if the atomic orbitals are relatively close in energy. This is important, right? You cannot just combine 1s with 5p, right? This kind of combinations, theoretically you can do, but practically it has no significance because they are far apart in energy. Whereas you can easily combine 2s and 2p, right? Because or 2p of one atomic orbital with 2p of another atomic of another atom, because they are very close in energy, right? Okay, now we have discussed about these combinations everywhere, right? These combinations. Now combinations of what? Combinations of atomic orbitals. And these atomic orbitals are what? These atomic orbitals are just wave functions. Now this combination is called linear combination of atomic orbitals. The mathematical details is beyond the scope of this lecture and this course also, because this is contains rigorous mathematics, but what we'll do is qualitatively see the linear combination of atomic orbitals, or this is commonly called LCAO method, right? Wherein we combine the wave functions. Suppose we take these A and B atoms again, right? Sorry, A and B. Now we have what? Suppose we have one electron present here, another electron present here with the atomic orbitals, right? Suppose this is the. Now the wave function associated with it, let us denote it by say psi A, right? And this one similarly as psi B. These are the two wave functions of A and B respectively. Okay, now let us combine. Now mind it, we have to remember that these are waves, right? These are waves. Waves can interfere, and they can interfere in two ways, constructively as well as destructively. Now if they combine like this, say psi B, right? This is our what is called constructive interference. Constructive interference. And similarly our destructive interference would look like psi A minus psi B. Okay, now why would on the first place they would like to, they would combine and form this kind of what is the significance, right? See, what we know from our previous lectures that psi A itself does not carry much meaning, but psi square A does, right? And psi square B does. These are the what probabilities densities, probability densities, right? This psi A square and psi B square of what? Of the electron that is associated with A and of the electron that is associated with B respectively, right? Now this psi A and this if you add it with psi B, that is linear combination, you get what we called, say suppose psi plus. I am denoting with psi plus and this one as psi minus, right? Now these were of individual psi A and psi B are individual atoms, right? These are atomic in nature, but after combination these things becomes molecular. One more important point to note is that in these salient features you can add that the number of molecular orbitals will be same as the combining atomic orbitals, number of combining atomic orbitals. Here we have combined two atomic orbitals, psi A and psi B, and what we got psi plus and psi minus, right? So there are two possibilities of combination and we get two of them, right? If you increase the number of atomic orbitals, there is the number of combinations also increases, and if you actually combine n number of atomic orbitals, then you get n number of molecular orbitals, not one less and not one more, right? This is important to note. I forgot to mention it in the previous slide, but this is important and mark it. Okay, so we have got two molecular orbitals, psi plus and psi minus. As with the case of atomic orbital, this psi plus and psi minus will also do not carry much meaning, but this psi plus square and psi minus square will, right? Because they are again the probability densities, right? They would give the probability of finding the electrons in the molecular orbitals, that particular molecular orbitals, right? Okay, now how would they look like? they would look like psi A plus psi B, psi A minus psi B whole square, right? Psi A square plus psi B square plus 2 psi A psi B, and here you will have psi A square plus psi B square minus 2 psi A psi B. Right. See, these are what? These values are same as those of individual atoms, right? Psi A square and psi B square. Now in case of constructive interference, that is psi plus, what we have gained? We have gained this amount, right? 2 psi A psi B, this amount of probability between these two atoms, right? Between these two atoms. Whereas in case of destructive interference, we have lost the same amount, that is 2 psi A psi B, in between these two atoms, right? Pictographically, or you can depict it. Suppose if it is A and this is B, right? And suppose this is our axis of this bond, right? Now suppose psi A was something like this and psi B was something like this. So in between we had some here, right? Now if you add it, now psi plus, if you constructively add it, it will just be the summation, right? Not like this, sorry, it will look like this one, right? So this will be our psi plus, right? See, there is an increase from this amount, we have increased here, right? Increase this density, probability density in between the atoms, right? Whereas if it is a destructive interference, right, that means they are out of phase, right? This A and B, psi A and psi B, what will be the result? This result will be like this, right? This means now you see it is 0 here, it is 0. That means this is a node, right? Now there is a decrease, even from the individual atom there is a decrease in probability or finding the probability of finding the electrons. In this case, if the electron reside in this kind of orbitals, right? Sorry, psi minus square. Okay, so this is the two molecular orbitals that we get by linear combination of the atomic orbitals psi A and psi B, that is psi plus and psi minus, right? Now this is what we called bonding and anti-bonding orbital. Now say if you have the energy, now we are considering the energies, looking the picture of energy, right? Suppose this is A, individual atom A, right? And this is say psi A, and suppose this is psi B, with the individual atom B, right? Now after combination you have 2, right? 1 and 2. Why I have drawn it different energies? Obviously this has higher energy, this and this has lower energy, right? The orbital that has lower energy will be which one? Of course, in which the probability of finding the electron is more in between the atoms. The combination in which the probability has increased is actually more stabilizing, because if the electron stays here, it will be inside the in between the two atoms, and the electrons will be under the influence of both the nucleus, so it will be much more stabilizing, right? So this is our psi plus, and this will be our corresponding psi minus, destructive interference. And this decrease is due to what? Due to this contribution, this 2 psi A psi B, right? This will go down and this will at the same by the same amount this will go up, right? And this center, right, which is in between this psi plus and psi minus, is called barycenter. Like you have center of gravity, right, center of mass, right? Similarly, if you have the center of energy is called the barycenter. And psi plus and psi minus will be exactly equidistant from this barycenter. One will be lower in energy, one will be higher in energy. This psi plus, this is called the bonding MO, right? Bonding MO, right? And this is called the anti-bonding MO, anti-bonding molecular orbital. Why bonding and anti-bonding? Because if it is here, the electrons are reside here, right? Suppose there is one electron here and another electron here. Now in the formation of molecule, this is the molecule. Again, you have to remember there is no individual character here, the individual atoms are here. We have combined theoretically and shown that if the molecule AB is formed, then the orbitals will look like this. Now we have nothing to do with this A and B individually, and both the electrons will now come here. See, if they comes here, they have decreased in energy. From here it has gone down here, from here also it has gone down here. So it is stabilizing in nature. Due to this stability, this is called bonding. So if you form a bond, you are stabilizing both A and B. That's why this is favored. Whereas if you put an electron here, this is highly unstabilizing, and that's why it is called anti-bonding. Actually, if you put a electron here, you are putting an electron in this anti-bonding orbitals. That means you are against the bond, right? It will go against the bond. That's why it is called anti-bonding. Okay. Now we know how to combine these things A and B, right? And we get constructively we get the bonding molecular orbital, and destructive, if it is an interference, there is a anti-bonding orbital. Okay. Now we will go to see how the shape of the orbitals look like. Now before going into that, I must say that I have done a very simplistic thing here, that I have shown here it as this one, right? So psi plus minus, I am writing the equations all together, so it can be bonding or anti-bonding depending on it is plus or minus. I have just shown it like this. This is good, this equation is good only for homonuclear diatomics. What does this mean? Homonuclear diatomics. What does this mean? Homonuclear diatomics. This means that a diatomic molecules, of course these are all diatomic molecules, right? This A and B is diatomic molecule, fine, but these are not homonuclear. Homonuclear means same type of nucleus. That means it should be AA, BB, this kind of molecules, right? There only this picture becomes right, because I have drawn, you see, psi A and psi B in the same energy. This is possible only when A is equals to B. This means this is good for molecules like H2, O2, F2, all these kind of things, right? Where you have both the atoms same. If it is not, you can do it when A is not equals to B, right? You just have to put some constants here, right? Just have to put some constants here, right? What are these constants? These are weightage factors. Suppose you have to we'll see it when we discuss heterodiatomic molecules. I will discuss one example here. We will clearly see that their weightage cannot be same, right? Because the contributions will be different now in parts of energy, because they will be of different level. Now if they are of different level, psi A and psi B, right? Now their combinations will also be different. Now this is the barycenter now, right? Now this is psi minus and this is psi plus. Fine. Now this, you can clearly see this psi plus is much nearer to psi b than it is than with psi a. So the character of psi plus will be much more near to psi b. That means the weightage of psi 2 will be more. More means more than 50%, right? And weightage of psi 2 will be lower. Similarly, the antibonding is much closer to the psi a, so weightage here will be more of psi a than of psi b. So this is the relation but nothing much. We can easily calculate the values of psi a and psi b mathematically, but for simplicity you can just use this psi plus minus equals to psi a plus psi b. Okay, now let us go with that knowledge to the discussions of shapes of these MOs, molecular orbitals, right? I just change the color of my pen. Okay, the shapes of molecular orbitals. See what I have drawn here, or sorry, I have not drawn it. I have taken these pictures from Housecroft inorganic chemistry by Housecroft and Sharp I think the 3rd edition, right? I will give you the study materials also. Okay, see, this is our individual, right? This is the individual. Three kinds of pictures are shown here, right? See, these are our individual atoms, right? These spheres, you can easily, I think you can discern the spheres here, right? I have drawn it even more, right? Two spheres are combining, then this is equivalent to this kind of thing, right? Why? Because there is an increase in density in between the atoms of what? Of the bonding MO. This is what is our psi plus and this is our psi minus. Of the bonding MO will look like this one, right? What is the bonding MO? This is what is called our sigma S, right? We call it sigma S. S means it is formed from S orbital. We'll very soon see that sigma bond can also be formed from p orbitals, right? So this is our sigma S and looks like this one, and this is our axis of the bond. This is the axis of the bond. Right? Now this picture on the extreme right, right? This may look like a sphere, but it is not a sphere. It is also an oblate spheroid, right? It is tapered here, but this is what is calculated by softwares and 3 dimension. It is shown in the 3 dimensions. It will look like this one, but it is just for your just for showing you. You do not have to write it down or if you draw it down in your examination papers or whatever, right? You can just draw shapes like this one. Okay, now if it is anti-bonding, that means it is destructively interfering now. So now there is no possibility of finding the electrons here. That means the probability is finding 0. That means there is a node, and this is now called a nodal plane, right? A nodal plane can be found here, right? And this is called, what we call it is sigma star, right? Sigma star, and this is again our axis of the bond. Now in which orbitals we will call sigma? See, sigma bond or sigma star, sigma orbitals we call those orbitals which remain same when you rotate the axis, which does not change when you rotate the axis. Suppose if you rotate the axis like a skewer, if you just go on rotating it, will it change? It will not change. It will not change, right? You cannot see any change, right? Because it is symmetrical with respect to the rotation of this axis. This kind of orbitals, molecular orbitals, we name it as sigma. Both are sigma, and we put a star here for anti-bonding. What does it signify? Whenever there is a nodal plane in between the atoms or nucleus, we called it a star orbital, right? We call it a starred orbital whenever there is a nodal plane in between the nucleus, both the nucleus, bonding nucleuses, right? So these are the shapes of sigma orbitals that are formed by s orbitals, s atomic orbitals, right? Now in this slide we can see the linear combination of p atomic orbitals. Suppose this pz, right? Now this pz can have two kind of phases. We already seen in our previous lecture that p orbitals have opposite phases beyond the nodal plane, right? When it crosses the node, it changes its sign. Suppose now both the p orbitals that are combining have the same phase and they combine like this, right? Constructively, then the shape would be this way. And again, see, along the axis, bond axis, if you rotate it, the symmetry will be same, right? It will not change. As such, we name it as sigma. And this sigma is denoted as 2pz. This means this is formed by the combination of two pz orbitals. That's why the shape is like this. We have, see, an increased electron density here in between the two nucleus. This is shown with this blue color, right? And the two red lobes show that these are out of phases, but you can find the electron there also, but finding the probability of electron there is very less. See the volume of this blue one, it is much higher than these two red one, right? So finding the electron in this, if the electron is present in this sigma p or pz orbital, then finding it in between the nucleus is much higher than finding it in these two lobes, right? That means you are finding it to the either atoms is much less than finding it between the atoms. That means they are in bonding situation. Whereas if they combine destructively, you see, now there is a nodal plane here. Now the size of the lobes in between is much less. In fact, in between it is 0, finding the probability. And see, it is again sigma. Why sigma? Because it is symmetrical with respect to the rotation. And why star? Because there is a nodal plane in between, right? So this is our anti-bonding orbital. So if the electron resides here, then where is the most probable positions? Is here in these two lobes. You can find the electrons here or here. There is the most probable position of finding probability of finding the electrons in these two positions. That means they will retain individual character of A and B, these two, right? A and B, rather than they combine. Here there is nothing, right? So electrons will not come here. They will retain their individuality, right? So that is anti-bonding, right? Now these are sigma. Now see, if you consider the bonding axis as z axis, then the two p orbitals will look like this one, right? The other two, they are 90 degree away from each other, right? They are 90 degree away. So the other two cannot form head-on collisions. They cannot form head-on overlap. They can only do sidewise overlap, right? They can only do sidewise overlap. This is shown here, right? The px orbital, and the same will be with py also. Now this px orbital, if they are in same phase, they can combine sidewise like this. Now if the phase is same, right, you see, similar to the sigma bond formation, here also we have an increased electron density in between the two atoms, bonding atoms, right? There is an increase here, right, as compared to the individual atoms, right? Now you see, this is our bonding axis. Now if you rotate it, it will not be same. if you rotate it 100 degrees, this blue one will go up, this will come down, right? So it will not remain same. That's why we do not call it sigma. If they change, we call it pi, right? We do not call sigma this anymore, right? And we designate it as P2px to show that this pi bond is formed by the two atomic orbitals which are px. Now if they are out of phase and combined like this, they are almost same as the individual atomic orbitals. See, they are almost same as the individual atomic orbitals, right? There is nothing in between the electrons, and if the electrons are present in this kind of atomic orbitals, they will either reside here or reside here, not in between. So they retain their individuality, and so we call it anti-bonding, and we put a star here. This is our pi star or molecular orbital now. Okay. Okay, so we have sigma from S, sigma from P, and sigma from pi from P orbitals. With these discussions, now we can go to the molecular energy levels, right?